God woke me up, and I knew this was from the Lord, and I've never had one like this since. I've never had one after. It was just one moment, and it was several years ago. And it was a dream where I forgot that I had my own concert. It was one of those panic dreams, where you're like, oh my gosh, you've all had them. Like, oh, I forgot. And you're panicked in your dream. It's like, I have a concert right now. Why am I not there? And I remember getting in my car, and I'm rushing to my own concert, and I get to a red light, and I look over to my left, and there's a stadium filled with people. Like the stadium, the lights are on, I can hear the band on stage, and it's filled. And Paul's right there. I think that's pretty hilarious because I never really played a stadium, but in my dreams, I must be Garth Brooks because there's like a stadium filled with people. And so, but that's comical, but to me, like looking at that, and so look at the stadium, thinking, oh my God, I've forgotten the concert. The band's on stage playing. There's people there, and then I look over to my right, and there's a baby laying in the street, and it's abandoned, screaming, and I remember my dream looking at this stadium of people singing, and I kept looking at the baby, I kept looking at the stadium, kept looking at the baby, and all I knew inside in my dream, I remember thinking, how can I go play that and leave this baby? I can't just leave this baby. So I remember getting out of the car, I go grab this baby, and I'm just holding the baby, looking at the baby screaming, looking at the people gathered, and I woke up. And it was such a marking thing. I was like, Lord, what are you trying to say to me? And this is before I had kids. I didn't even know what to do with this. I was like, Lord, what do I do with this? What do I do? And it led me to this verse. Let me back to this verse that had become such an incredible scripture in my life over the past many years. And it's a verse that it's really, the first part of it was always the one I love to quote. And it's in Hebrews, and it says, through Jesus, let us continually offer a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that confess his name, which is what this is all about, what we're doing here. Worship, our lips confessing his name. It says, let's continually do that. The next part of the verse says, and do not forget to do good to others. For with both sacrifices, God is pleased. And man, it hit me again. I was like, Lord, it was like the Lord brought that dream to me to say, this is what I'm talking about. It's one thing to come just in worship and I've given my life to that. But also, there's a massive need out there. And so I was thinking, God, what is this baby? What are you talking about? What are you trying to tell me about? What are you trying to tell me? And God kept through everywhere I turned over the next several years. It's led me to this moment that I'm telling you right now. It has been in my face of what's going on with kids, with vulnerable, abandoned kids here in our own backyard. And there's a lot of amazing things that there's a lot of great need in the world, and there's a lot of amazing organizations that are doing amazing things for kids all over the world, but I rarely hear anybody talking about what's going on in our own backyard here in the United States, and here with kids right here in Indiana, and kids in Chicago, and kids in LA, and kids in Houston, and I thought, man, this is where I go. I started thinking, this is where I play music every night. And so I started thinking, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? What are you asking me to do? And because this was something I wasn't looking for at all. And God has just said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to speak up for these kids that are right here in our own backyard. And here we are locking arms.
Yeah.
And I've really not done anything like this before.
Yeah, and I think that's where the name For Others came out of. It's that verse, right? The
Yes.
first part of it is for God, and then the second part of it is we really are for God. Then we're going to be for others. We're going to love God and love others. And the truth of the matter is that dream you had is about a very real nightmare in the life of kids in Indiana tonight. And you're right. I mean, kids in India need the gospel just as much as kids in Indiana. But while we have, as the church here in America, taken such good stewardship care of children around the world, we have kind of neglected what's happening in our own backyard. And I'm just telling you that God wants both of that, the local and the global effort, because these children matter to God. And tonight, In America, 9 million children are going to go to bed hungry. 9 million children in America are going to go to bed hungry in this state right now, in this very state. And you're better, by the way, than so many of the other states, because this is such a compassionate state. So many heroes in this room right now have adopted, have walked into foster care. But right now, there are 1,611 children in your state that are waiting to be adopted. Most of them over 3 years waiting to be adopted. But right now, there are right over 10,000, it just hit 10,000 children that have been placed in the foster care system in this very state, Chris.
This is